The Polyjuice potion is one of the most well-known potions in the Harry Potter series. It is used as a central element of the story in 3 books, 4 movies, and the Cursed Child play. So needless to say, it is well known to Harry Potter fans around the world. But what you might not have known is the fact that the movie removed a crucial element of this potion's first appearance in the Chamber of Secrets. Have you ever wondered how Hermione got her hands on all the proper ingredients for this advanced concoction in only her 2nd year at Hogwarts? Well, the book answers this question by taking the time to fill us in on how these critical items were collected. It's no small detail, as that moment from the book directly impacts the dueling club scene as well. It's all intertwined, and in order to unravel this mystery, I've taken it upon myself to analyze and compile all the changes that the movie made to this chapter in the book. So by the end of this video, you'll know all about how the trio really brewed up the Polyjuice potion and how the dueling club plays a larger role in the story than you might think. My name is Gibby, and welcome back to episode 26 of Movies vs. Manuscripts, Harry Potter edition. This is the show where I go scene by scene through the Harry Potter movies and find all the differences between them and the original books. Today, we're diving into the scenes that come right after Harry's rogue bludger incident and stay in the hospital wing. We'll get to meet Moaning Myrtle as the trio brews up Polyjuice potion in the girls' bathroom. We'll see Draco and Harry's duel during Lockhart's failure of a dueling club. And finally, we will witness Ron and Hermione's reaction to Harry's Parseltongue revelation. But before we get to any of that, I wanted to give a shout out to this commenter from a previous episode. Each week, I highlight one of the top comments from a past video, so be sure to share your thoughts down below when you're done watching. Per usual, I'll cover all the changes across the 4 major categories of characters, timeline, location, and plot. But first, let's recap what happened during these scenes in the movie. Picking up from Harry's late night in the hospital wing as Colin Creevey was just brought in petrified, the movie cuts to the next day as Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in the middle of a girl's bathroom. Hermione is brewing up a potion, and her and Ron are reacting to Harry's news about what Dumbledore said the night before. The chamber has been opened again. Ron then remarks how Lucius must have opened it when he was in school and now he's taught Draco. Then he asks Hermione why they're brewing this potion in the middle of the day in a girl's bathroom, and Hermione says because of Moaning Myrtle. We then meet this iconic character who is just as mopey as always, and the scene ends with her splashing back into a toilet. Then the movie cuts to the next scene, which is the dueling club. Lockhart speaks to a large group of students and brings Snape up to help him demonstrate a duel. Snape casts a spell that knocks Lockhart backwards 10 feet, and Lockhart gets up slowly, saying that he could have blocked it if he wanted to. At this, Snape replied that maybe they should teach the students how to block unfriendly spells, and Lockhart says that's a great idea. They then have Harry and Draco come up on the tables to demonstrate, but Draco, being the cheater that he is, casts his spell at Harry before Lockhart starts the duel. This knocks Harry backwards, but he quickly gets up and casts a spell right back at Draco, who also gets flung backwards. Snape then grabs Draco and pulls him up, and Draco casts a final spell which causes a snake to come out of the end of his wand. Everyone is freaked out by this, and Lockhart attempts to get rid of the snake, but ends up just launching it into the air, making it angry. Snape then says he'll take care of it and steps forward, but before he can, Harry begins speaking to the snake in a hissing sort of language. The snake then backs off from Justin Finch-Fletchley, who it had been looking at just a moment ago, and then Snape shot a spell at it, killing it. Everyone was staring at Harry, obviously frightened by what they just saw, but Harry doesn't learn what happened until Ron and Hermione take him back to the Gryffindor common room and inform him that he was speaking Parseltongue. Hermione then tells Harry that Parseltongue was Salazar Slytherin's defining trait, and the scene ends on an ominous note as the trio thinks Harry could possibly be a long-lost descendant of the Hogwarts co-founder. And that is where we're stopping for this week. Now let's waste no time and get right into the first 3 categories of characters, timeline, and location. First, for characters, we have our usual people missing: the Weasley twins, Ginny, and of course Percy. On top of the Weasleys though, we have a specific mention about Millicent Bulstrode, which will be crucial later in the plot changes. And lastly, there is chatter and small dialogue from multiple other Gryffindor students. Of course, they're shown in the movie, but their lines are cut down tremendously since the movie has to save the screen time for our main 3. As for timeline, things are pretty accurate. Of course, the chapter starts with Harry waking up, as most of J.K. Rowling's chapters do, but you can't expect the movie to show Harry's entire day. Lastly, before our plot changes, we have location. The only thing missing to my knowledge is Potions class, as there's a whole scene in there that the movie decided to take out, and it directly relates to our missing Polyjuice potion ingredients, so stay tuned for that. First though, I wanted to remind you that I can't go word for word through the books, because obviously the movie can't follow that exactly. I try my best to point out line changes that are impactful to the plot or character development, but for everything else, I encourage you to read or listen to the book for yourself. And if that's what you want to do, then definitely check out Audible and claim your free trial using my link link in the description. Every free trial supports the channel, and it gets you one free audiobook of your choice, so it's a win-win. Feel free to follow along with me each week as I do the series and get all the details firsthand before the analysis. But that being said, let's dive into the plot changes. To start things off this week, we actually have to reach back to 2 chapters ago, because although the start of this week's chapter has the trio in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, it isn't the first time they've gone in there, which makes this the first change for this week, because the movie shows them in this bathroom and Hermione introduces it to the boys as if it's their first time in there. In the book, although they do have a very similar moment of them brewing the potion in the bathroom, which we'll get to in a minute, we first need to reach back to chapter 9 in this book and reveal what their real first trip to the bathroom was. If you recall from a couple episodes ago, after the incident of the writing on the wall, the trio went and did some snooping around the actual writing. They found scorch marks, spiders crawling through a crack in the window, and then they decided to trace the source of the water that was on the floor, and that led them to an out-of-order girls' bathroom. After some encouragement from Hermione, who assured them that no one would be in there, the boys went in with her and looked around. We then get our first description of the bathroom in the book, and then they run into Moaning Myrtle. Now, the second key change here is the fact that the boys have already met Moaning Myrtle at Sir Nicholas's death day party. So while the movie uses this brief scene to introduce the character, technically they've already met her in the books. In this part of the book, after Myrtle gets upset that boys are in the bathroom, they ask her if she saw anything the previous night, but she tells them that she didn't because the night that Mrs. Norris was attacked, she was too busy being upset by Peeves. After this useless search, the trio decides to leave the bathroom, but as soon as they make it out of the door, they run into the worst person to see in this situation: Percy. Which brings us to our next change, as in the movie, this moment doesn't have anything to do with Percy, but in the book, he catches them leaving the girls' bathroom and immediately starts reprimanding Ron. This interaction with Percy is another moment for J.K. Rowling to bring Ginny into the story again, as Percy tells Ron that he shouldn't be snooping around this area while everyone is at dinner. After all, people already think the trio is at fault for what happened to Mrs. Norris. He then tells Ron that Ginny is still extremely upset by everything and thinks Ron and Harry are going to get expelled. Then, after Ron talks back to Percy deducted 5 points from Gryffindor and stormed off. So now that we've covered that bathroom moment from chapter 9, and you have context for the trio's true first meeting in there, we can skip back to chapter 11, which is the focus of this week's episode. Other than the fact that Ron accuses Lucius of opening the chamber before, everything else in this moment is also changed. Per usual, we pick up the chapter with Harry starting his day, whereas the movie cuts straight to the bathroom. But here's what happens in between events. Harry woke up in the hospital wing with feeling back in his arm and all his bones grown back. After being cleared by Madame Pomfrey, he rushed off to the Gryffindor dorms to find his friends, but they weren't there. Then, after running into Percy, who asked if Ron had been snooping around girls' bathrooms recently, Harry thought that they might be in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, and he went to check that location. To his surprise, he was right, and both of his friends were in a stall of the bathroom. As you can see, even though they know the bathroom is safe, they still chose to brew the potion in a locked stall, not just on the floor in the open. Hermione and Ron then tell Harry that they overheard Professor Flitwick about Colin Creevey being attacked, and that's when they decided to get going on the potion without him. They then discuss the same thing we hear in the movie, which is Ron saying he thinks Lucius Malfoy must have opened the chamber in the past, and now he's taught Draco how to do it. Then the bathroom scene ends with Ron telling Harry that if Dobby doesn't stop trying to save his life, he's gonna end up killing Harry. And on that note, the chapter moves on to the next part of the story. Of course, we skip directly to the dueling club scene, but there are a couple details between the bathroom scene and the dueling scene that I wanted to address from the book. First, we learn again that Ginny was distraught as the news of Colin Creevey's attack spread around the school. Fred and George kept trying to cheer her up by covering themselves in fur or boils and then jumping out at her from behind statues, and it wasn't until Percy threatened them with their mother that they stopped. The second detail we get is that we read that a market of talismans, amulets, and other protective devices was sweeping the school, and students were claiming that certain items could protect them from the monster that was lurking about, and Neville purchased everything he could get his hands on. Then his classmates reminded him that he's a pureblood and not likely to be attacked. But Neville claimed that Filch is a squib and he was targeted, so Neville might be next since he's practically a squib. And finally, the last omission before the dueling scene isn't so much a small detail like the ones I just mentioned, but something that could have been a whole scene on its own. You see, 2 weeks into December, Professor McGonagall went around with her sign-up sheet for those students who would be staying at the castle over the holidays. Most everyone wanted to leave for break because they were scared to be in the school, but Draco and his goons signed up to stay. Thinking this would be the perfect time to use the Polyjuice potion, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all elected to stay as well. But there's a catch. they were still missing a couple key ingredients for the potion, which would only be found in Professor Snape's private stores. If you recall from a previous episode, this was a point that Hermione made when they first read about the potion, and Harry said he didn't feel right about stealing ingredients, even from Snape. But with Hermione pressuring the boys to break rules, Ron and Harry went forward with their plan, which they execute in this chapter. We skip ahead to their next potions class that week before break, and Harry uses a filibuster firework to cause Goyle's potion to explode with a swelling solution, which caused mayhem in Snape's class. During this commotion, Hermione slipped into the stores and grabbed the ingredients she needed. Now, this is only a page or two in the book, and it's a funny moment, but it actually has a larger impact than you'd think. Why? Well, as we know, Snape is very practiced in the art of legilimency, aka reading someone's mind, and Harry mentions to the others that Snape looked right at him and somehow knew that he was the one who threw the firework. Harry had done it when he wasn't looking, so Snape couldn't have had proof, but he said after the class had calmed down that if he found out who threw the firework, he would make sure that student was expelled. Ron tells Harry that Snape can't prove it was him, but Harry says that knowing Snape, he'll do something foul to pay back Harry. Well, I think we know that Snape knows he can't just have Harry expelled, but he found another way to punish him, and that is through the dueling club. As we'll soon see, Snape pairing up Draco and Harry is no mistake, and I personally think it was his way of getting back at Harry for the prank in his class. And on that note, we can move on to the next scene we see in the movie, which is the dueling club. The first change we have isn't until a couple minutes into the scene, because the first part of this is actually pretty book accurate. Lockhart arrives, introduces the class, duels with Snape, and gets knocked backwards, claiming that he could have defended himself if he wanted to. The changes we have come after this sequence, and the first one is actually a pretty big one, as the movie skips over a crucial moment of the students breaking off into pairs. In the movie, we just see Draco and Harry duel while everyone watches. But before Lockhart and Snape teach them how to block spells, the book version has Lockhart telling everyone to pair up and practice disarming. Of course, Ron and Harry try to partner, but Snape reaches them before they can do so and tells them that they need to split up. He then grabs Malfoy and pairs him with Harry, Ron with Seamus, and Hermione with Millicent Bulstrode. Then a number of things happen all at once as the students begin to practice. First, let's talk about Draco and Harry. Just like in the movie, Draco casts his spell on the count of 2, catching Harry off guard. But unlike the movie, the spell that Harry puts on Draco in return is a tickling spell. I'm pretty sure it's actually the same words we hear Harry say in the movie, but I guess they thought tickling wouldn't have been a good fit for the mood on screen. In the book, as Lockhart realizes that things are getting out of hand, he starts yelling at the students saying that he only wanted them to disarm. But it's too late now as Draco casts another spell on Harry, causing Harry's legs to dance around uncontrollably. So far, I think you can tell a theme. We have a tickling spell and then a dancing spell. You have to remember that in the book, this is only their second year. So if they're dueling, it's not like they're going to be doing killing curses on each other or anything really damaging. The spells J.K. Rowling has them do to each other here, even when Draco and Harry are trying to hurt each other, are obviously second-year level spells. But anyway, to look at our other pairs who are dueling, the second thing of note is that after everyone stopped, Ron was apologizing to Seamus for whatever his wand had done to him, as there was a big cloud of green smoke around them. As we know from previous chapters, Ron's broken wand has been causing a lot of green smoke around everybody recently. And third, regarding Hermione and Millicent Bulstrode, after everyone stopped, they were still fighting, but not with wands, as Millicent had Hermione in a headlock and their wands were on the ground. If you ever wondered when Hermione got, or thought she got, a hair from Millicent Bulstrode, this was the time. After Harry helped break up this fight, Lockhart looked around and saw that everyone was hurt or on the floor, and said maybe it's best if he taught them how to block. And now is when we resume with what the movie shows as they select a duo to demonstrate blocking. A small change here is that in the book, Lockhart picks Newell and Justin Finch-Fletchley, who had been paired up before, but Snape says that Longbottom causes devastation wherever he goes. This is a line directed at Ron and his wand in the movie, but after Snape says this in the book, he suggests Potter and Malfoy, just like the film. Which brings us to the next change, as the movie removed Snape and Lockhart showing their pupils how to block a spell. After all, the whole point of this demonstration was to show blocking, so Lockhart took Harry and Snape took Malfoy. Lockhart showed Harry and failed spectacularly as he dropped his wand in the process, leaving Harry completely unprepared for the situation. Snape, on the other hand, was whispering in Draco's ear, probably telling him the spell to cast. And that is what we read next, as after Lockhart's countdown, Draco cast his spell which shot a snake out of his wand. As you can see, the movie sort of combined their previous duel as a pair with this demonstration in front of everyone. Just like in the movie, Lockhart attempts to remove the snake but ends up just making it mad, and then Harry speaks Parseltongue to it to get it to not attack Justin. And finally, we see the trio heading back to Gryffindor Common Room as Ron and Hermione talk to Harry about how he is a Parselmouth. This moment actually has no changes and is nearly identical to the book, so yay filmmakers for that one. And on that note, that wraps up all of the plot changes for this week. Now that you've heard it all, what do you think of the changes they made for the movie? Do you think it flows better like this for a film format? Or were there too many plot holes when you leave out the details of the potions class and the dueling club? Let me know in the comments below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out the series playlist to catch up on any episodes you might have missed so far. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode.